The sinking of the Titanic is often seen as a grand tragedy, almost theatrical in its drama, with famous passengers, bold heroics, and haunting mystery. But one group is consistently overlooked in the retelling: the ship's crew, particularly those who survived. These were the firemen, stewards, sailors, officers, and engineers who kept the Titanic running. Nearly 700 of them perished, yet the 212th who lived carried on with scars both visible and invisible, and were met not with honor, but suspicion and silence. When the RMS Carpathia pulled into a rainy, wind-whipped New York harbor, it carried more than 700 survivors, including Titanic's surviving crew. But they wouldn't be allowed to simply disembark and go home. Instead, U.S. officials were waiting, eager to detain them as material witnesses in the Senate's inquiry. Chairman of White Star Line, J. Bruce Ismay, had tried to arrange their swift return to England via the SS Cedric, but his plans were blocked. The U.S. wanted answers and survivors. The crew was sent to the SS Lapland, told they'd be sent home soon. Instead, they were held in isolation. Charities offered clothes and aid, but their pay had already stopped per an old maritime law stating that a seaman's wages end when a ship sinks. Frustration and grief swelled. "We saved lives," one crewman said bitterly, "and we get nothing. It's not fair." Testimonies began quickly. Crew members were called, questioned, and often dismissed. Many were met with skepticism, as though they were trying to cover up incompetence. Rumors and blame swirled around them. Meanwhile, all they wanted was to go home. At last, the Lapland was cleared to return home, carrying 150 of the surviving crew. For most, their destination was Southampton, a city in mourning. 4 out of every 5 Titanic crew members had come from there. Over 500 had died. Some of the survivors found temporary peace aboard the Lapland, but their relief was short-lived. One day out from arrival, the press reported, "The Titanic's crew will not be sent home upon arrival. They will be questioned by company officials first." The crew hadn't been told. When Lapland docked in Plymouth on April 28th, they were met by thousands of people, hoping for a warm reunion. Instead, the crew was once again detained. They were handed official notices. "You are hereby detained as a witness in the forthcoming Board of Trade inquiry." The atmosphere turned tense. Then, unexpectedly, a small red-sailed boat approached. On board were union officials shouting to the men, "Don't speak to anyone. Ask for your union rep first." Their presence changed everything. The Board of Trade's authority was challenged, and negotiations began. Hours later, the crew was allowed to step ashore. Cheers erupted. Survivors greeted loved ones through fences and windows, shouting questions and cries. "Joe's gone," one man called. "Is all well at home, Mother?" cried another. Still, their return was bittersweet. Many had lost everything: belongings, wages, colleagues. And they were returning to a city soaked in grief. That night, the crew arrived in Southampton. Over 2,000 people were waiting. One little girl ran to meet her father, dancing around as he embraced her and her mother. For these men and women, the ordeal was over. But for more than 500 families, it had just begun. Southampton was blanketed in sorrow. One reporter wrote, "There are so many women in black. A stranger would know instantly. This place has seen calamity." Despite the trauma, most crew members returned to the sea. Many rejoined White Star Line and served aboard the Olympic. Titanic's surviving officers Lightler, Pittman, Boxhall, Lowe all remained at sea. Some stories are nearly unbelievable. Violet Jessup, a stewardess, had survived Olympic's collision with HMS Hawke, the Titanic sinking in Lifeboat 16, and the Britannic disaster during World War I. She later completed 2 round-the-world voyages. Archie Jewell, one of Titanic's lookouts, also survived Britannic, but was killed when the SS Donegal was torpedoed. Arthur John Priest, a fireman, survived Titanic, Olympic, Britannic, Donegal, and multiple other sinkings. He somehow survived it all. Others weren't so lucky. Edward John Boole, a heroic seaman, died in 1916 aboard HMS Partridge. William Peasy, another fireman, was lost when HMS Dirk was sunk by a German U-boat. The truth is, many crew members couldn't just walk away. Life at sea was all they knew, and tragedy was just part of the job. But the way they were treated? Unforgivable. After the sinking, the crew became living proof of disaster, an inconvenience. They were silenced, detained, and blamed. Their testimony was dismissed. Even when they described seeing the ship break in half, the British inquiry ruled Titanic had sunk intact, choosing not to believe them. Responsibility was placed on the officers, while White Star, Harland and Wolff, and the Board of Trade were spared. No one questioned why Captain Smith posted no extra lookouts, or why crew and third-class passengers had to navigate a maze to reach lifeboats. Titanic's youngest officer, James Moody, had stayed on deck helping passengers into lifeboats. When offered a seat in one himself, he declined, giving it to another officer. He was last seen trying to free a collapsible boat before being swept away. Initially, his family was told he'd survive, but later, White Star sent a letter offering to ship his body home if the family paid a £20 deposit. Should you wish his remains returned, kindly send us the fee. Otherwise, we will bury him with due reverence and send you a photo of the grave. There was just one problem. James Moody's body was never found. This is the untold story of Titanic's surviving crew, not just their survival, but their struggle afterward. They faced grief, neglect, injustice, and still they sailed on.